Now to some important health news for parents. Specific new guidelines for how and when to introduce certain foods to infants who are at risk for food allergies. Dr. Alanna Levine is a pediatrician and spokesperson for the American Academy of Pediatrics. Dr. Levine, good morning. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Before we get to the specifics, do these new guidelines contradict what we as parents have been told prior to this?
Well, back in 2000, the American Academy of Pediatrics released guidelines that said you should wait and delay the introduction of high allergen-containing foods until 1, 2, and even 3 for some foods. However, in 2008, they revised those guidelines, and these new 2011 guidelines sort of reinforce the 2008, which is that you don't need to delay the introduction of foods that typically cause allergies.
So a child as young as 1, 2, and 3 you can introduce to high allergen foods. Is this in an attempt to detect whether they actually have food allergies, or by introducing them at an early age, can they build up an immunity to those food allergies?
So, Matt, you can actually introduce these foods to children now at 6 months per the new guidelines. And the reason to do this is because the science doesn't support the evidence that delaying it is actually going to have a protective effect. So you have children and you want to give them a well-balanced diet of lots of foods. And there's no reason to withhold those foods if it's not going to cause a problem.
Let's take a look at some of the suggestions here, right? These are important for parents. Start with easy foods: cereal, yellow-orange vegetables, fruit, green veggies. Introduce potential allergens like peanuts, dairy at home, and increase if no reaction, which raises the question, what would a typical reaction look and feel like?
Right. So reactions can really be varied, and generally the first reaction tends to be milder. You can see a rash, like hives that are splotchy, they cause itching. A more severe reaction would be difficulty breathing or wheezing, that feeling of throat swelling, and can progress to even a life-threatening anaphylaxis.
Some of the other suggestions: introduce one new food every 3 to 5 days. If there is a reaction, consult a doctor. We've got a lot of email questions already about this, Doctor.
Okay.
Let me give you one of those from Elena Johnston Barbary. Is there a genetic component involved that can be tested for during pregnancy? For instance, knowing very early to avoid dairy or nuts, even during the pregnancy?
So that's an interesting question, and we definitely know that there is a genetic component, and if the first-degree relative has an allergy, that there's an increased risk that that new child will have an allergy. Currently, there aren't any tests that we're doing in pregnancy, but that would be a great thing to know and study for the future.
Are food allergies on the rise?
They are on the rise, and we're not exactly sure why, and there are a lot of theories. One interesting theory is something called the hygiene hypothesis, which is we're living in such a cleaner world now. We're using antibiotics that are fighting infections, and so the body, the immune system, is reacting to things that are harmless in the environment instead of things that are harmful.
Interesting information for parents out there. Dr. Alanna Levine. Doctor, thanks very much.